Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jackie and I am the owner and creator here at Denwood Designs. In today's video, I'm going to show you how I made this super cute Valentine's Day inspired hidden message tumbler. So in this video, I am using glow pigment that I got from Cat Glitter Factory. It's a liquid pigment, so it's added right into the epoxy. And then I had to match it with a spray paint to create a hidden message. And while this is Valentine's Day, this cup is actually an anti-Valentine's Day tumbler, as requested by my customer. And because it's a male, we thought we would also use and feature a product also carried by Cat, which is the Matte Avenue finishing paste to give this tumbler a matte look. I absolutely loved making this. It took me a little bit to wrap my head around it all, but I am so happy with the results. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay guys, so as always, we are going to start with a fully prepped, sanded and painted cup. And for this, we're going to be starting with some glow-in-the-dark pigment. This is a liquid pigment that I got from Cat Glitter Factory. So we need to pop the top off this. There's no ball in it to shake, so all of the glow powder just sits down at the bottom. So I've used a long skewer, and you can see all the pigment is just down at the bottom there. So we really want to stir really well. Take your time with this. And I did find that just a wooden skewer worked really well for it. And I think I probably mixed this for well over a minute. So when you think it's mixed, mix it some more. It's not going to hurt it. And you really want to make sure you've got a good even distribution of that glow pigment that's in there. So once I've done that, I've just gone and wiped my stick off a little bit, put the lid back on, and gave it another really good shake. And that plastic cap just pops off pretty easily. And this was my first time using a liquid glow pigment, so there's no real hard and fast rules here of how much to use. But I knew that I wanted really good coverage against this white cup. So the whole idea of doing this cup is you're creating a hidden message. So in order to have that happen, I started with a small amount of the glow pigment, and then you'll see I did add some more here because I really wanted it quite opaque. I didn't want it to be the least bit see-through as much as possible. So once I had a good look at what that looked like all mixed in, I think I put in another pretty good squeeze of the bottle and mixed in some more. And that's all I used for the first coat. So just mix it in really well into your epoxy. I think I have here about 20 mils of epoxy, so 10 mils of part A and 10 of part B. And it was pre-mixed before I added the glow pigment. So with your cup on the turner, we're just going to go ahead and apply really evenly the glow pigment in the epoxy here into the cup. And you really want to make sure you get really even coverage all the way from top to bottom. And naturally it will pull from the top a little bit, so you'll see, just to make sure you really go over the top lip really well, because it will always kind of pull back a bit from that. So just keep that in mind and just revisit it. You'll see a couple of spots I've done over and over, and it still kind of pulls away from the top there. But that's okay, because once we just go over it a few times, it stays put, so that's fine. So I knew right off the bat from doing this, it definitely isn't as much of coverage as I would like. So I did do a second coat after 4 to 6 hours of this cup turning, and I did the exact same process. I mixed the pigment and I poured a hefty amount into the epoxy once it was mixed, and then just went ahead and applied it again like a flood coat, and then that just evened out my coverage a lot better. I think in hindsight doing this, I would have spray painted my base blue like what I'm putting on here, but I also had wondered if that would keep me from making sure I had really even coverage, if it would have been more difficult to see. So I am glad that I did it in the white. It's my first time, like I said, using this product, so I wasn't really sure what to expect. So again, just really good coverage and attention to the bottom rim, and again, that top rim as well, to make sure that you're getting really, really even coverage from top to bottom. So once everything was on there, I just went ahead and torched it really quickly, just to pop any micro bubbles that were there. And then we're just going to go ahead and let this spin until it's dry. So, and it's up to you if you wanted to add another layer. Like I said, I did after 4 to 6 hours, I added a second layer, and that worked really well for me. So doing the hearts, I just picked a heart shape out of Cricut Design Space, and I had some random sayings in my head that I was able to use. And so again, this is an anti-Valentine's Day theme as per the customer's request. And so I just did the little conversation hearts. So I picked a heart that I liked, I duplicated it a few times, and then I typed out my text in a font that I liked. And then you're going to go ahead and put that font on top of the heart and select both the heart and the wording and hit slice. And then you can separate them. So we'll do it here again. Be my X on top of the heart. Just sized it the way that I wanted it within that. And then once it's in there, go ahead and select both the heart and the lettering, hit slice, and then go ahead and click on your lettering to be removed and deleted, your heart, and the remaining lettering you can delete. So you're left with a heart that has the letters cut out of it, and that's what we're going to use onto the cup to create that hidden message. So we'll just do that for the remainder. Again, placing your letters where you like them, selecting both, and hitting slice. Then you can remove your words, remove the heart over to the side, and delete the lettering from behind. Then I just pushed everything over to the side once it was done. It doesn't matter, it won't print like that, so not to worry. And the final one, again, selecting both the heart and the lettering, hit slice, pull out your lettering from the top. You're left with the heart with the cutout next, and then delete the remaining letters. And then I had already done the decal that I'm going to be putting on the cup as the main body, and I created an overlay, an offset for it as well. So we're going to go ahead and make those and send that to our machine, and we'll use those again here shortly. So I'm just sizing everything the way that I like it. And once we're good with all that, we're going to go ahead and click Make It. I'll sort it into the mats and go from there. So now that my decals are all printed, I'm going to go ahead and quickly weed those. So this is for the main decal that's going on. Again, it's an anti-Valentine's Day saying, just says Cupid is stupid. This is really what my customer had wanted. So just taking care to not lose any of your little bits and pieces. I had a little spot on the bottom that was a little bit stubborn, and if that happens, you can just pull them off individually and place them on top of your main decal as well, which is basically what I did here. And then this is the offset portion, so this is the bottom, and this just helps make the decal pop a little bit better. And there's lots of tutorials out there for how to create a offset. Jessica Flynn has a great one on her page as well, using Inkscape, which is what I use as well. It is free software, so it's pretty easy to do once you get the hang of it, and I use it quite frequently. So we're just going to separate these two. making sure we keep all the little pieces intact. We don't want to lose those. This one was just a little bit more finicky than I thought, but that's okay. And now for the hearts as well. So this one took a little bit more time. So once you weed out the hearts, now you've got to take out the lettering as well. So I pulled out each letter individually till they were all done. Really take your time here. Make sure that you don't lose the little centers of your O and things like that. The more time you take, the better it looks overall. So the little tiny spaces there that we kept inside the B, the R's, the O, really just set it off really, really well. So takes a little bit of time, but it's not too bad. Definitely tedious work. I always find the best designs are the ones that are tedious. So here's what the cup looks like after a second coat. So you can definitely tell the difference. And that's all that went on there, guys, was just 2 coats. So not too bad at all. So now we're just going to transfer the decal on top of the offset. And I lost a letter there, so just hand place it if something like that happens. It's not an issue at all. And then we're just going to trim around it, and this is just so that we can show placement on the cup. I had done this also in my previous Valentine's Day Tumbler tutorial, so if you're looking to see just sort of how I placed my decal around doing sort of a peekaboo style, it's a little bit more covered in that video than it is in this one, but essentially that's all I'm doing here. So we'll get the cup, we'll go for where we want to place the decal down, and we're just going to tape it in place here to hold it so that when we go ahead and place the hearts all around the remainder of the cup, we're leaving ourselves enough space to go ahead and put that, that decal down on it. So I've just used some transfer tape to hold it in place. And it all makes sense here in just a second. So once the decal's in place, we can go ahead and take the hearts now and transfer those over one at a time throughout the cup, leaving enough space so that we can come back and put the decal on. Because once those hearts are on, we're going to spray paint the cup in a matching blue, or as close to a matching blue as I was able to find. So we're just going to burnish them on really, really well, and just did this one at a time because I didn't want them grouped super close together. So I just placed it all on the cup, burnish it on there really, really well, and then lift up the edge of the transfer tape and peel that back. This one was super sticky. And if you are going to use your tools on the epoxied cup, just make sure you're really, really gentle, that you're not scratching it or pitting it, because once we spray paint over this, that will become really visible. So you just want to be really, really gentle. So we're just going to put these all around the cup. And there we've left room for the decal to go on there. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take the cup outside and we're going to spray paint it using 2 times Rust-oleum, Satin, and I believed it was blue Oasis that I used, which was as pretty close a blue as you can get. Oasis blue it's called. And I love the Rust-oleum 2 times. So this is what it looks like after it's been spray painted. And now comes another really tedious part where we're going to be picking off all of those decaled hearts, leaving what you can tell is a secret message. So once those are picked up, you get the glow from in behind on that epoxied surface. And the blue, I would say, is a pretty close match. I was really happy with the way that this came out because I knew that that was going to be probably the biggest challenge of making this cup, was finding it in the same shades or as close to the same shades as possible. You can't really call it a hidden message if it's super obvious. So this worked out really, really well and I'm so pleased. So again, just take your time. You really want to be careful here to not smudge your paint or scratch it rather, anything like that. You really want to make sure before you even start this process that your paint is really, really dry. And you can also use parchment paper under your cup as well if you feel that you're leaving kind of fingerprints or anything like that. So all right, so all of our hearts are off the cup. Again, it's not a perfect match, but it's pretty darn close, and I'm really, really happy with the way that this turned out. So now we've got that big space open for us to go ahead and put the decal down. So we're going to go ahead and transfer that over. We're just going to burnish it onto the transfer tape really, really well. And this transfer tape was at the end of its life. I tend to reuse them a couple times over. So this one was a little bit more of a challenge to lift off the back here. You'll see in a second, but it was fine. But that's how I tend to use my transfer tape, is just till it's kind of not really effective anymore. So once the little edges were pushed down, they were fine and everything just peels up. But if that happens to you, just push them down, peel back, and it definitely helps. And just those tiny little pieces. Again, if they pop off, you can go ahead and hand place them as well if you can't get them to re-stick back down onto your transfer tape. I think I was able to do that here, no problem, and I didn't have to hand place them, but you can just hand place them with a pair of tweezers if need be as well. So here I just kind of eyeballed where I wanted it, making sure it's nice and straight, and then I smooth out from the center all the way out to the edge. And just making sure I'm really, really happy and it's solidly down. Burnish it on there really, really well, and then go ahead and peel up your tape, and that's just fine. Your decal should be nicely placed. If you have any bubbles, you can go ahead and pop those, or any edges that you feel might not be exactly how you like them, you go ahead and address that first. And there we have it. She's ready for the last couple of coats of epoxy. And so I've mixed up about 30 milliliters of epoxy to go on here. So 15 milliliters of part A, 15 milliliters of part B. And we're just going to go ahead and cover the cup in the epoxy just as we would in any other way, making sure that we get all the top rim covered Really good coverage over that decal. And you really want to make sure that when you've stirred and mixed your epoxy that you've got as many bubbles out as possible. If you need to let it sit, you can do that. I do a warm bath for part A, and that helps tremendously. So we're just going to go ahead and get really good coverage, pop any bubbles with the with the torch, and we're going to go ahead and let this turn for 4 to 6 hours, and then we're going to put on a final coat of epoxy and let that fully dry for 8 to 12 hours after that. And I'm just smoothing out any little imperfections I saw in there. I think I saw a couple of rogue pieces of glitter that I needed to get rid of, so just kind of swiped those away. While epoxy is still wet, it will self-level, so there's not anything to worry about. So here we are, the cup is fully cured after, or dry, after 12 hours. So we're gonna go ahead and use the Matte Avenue finishing paste. So I like to use the 00 grade stainless steel. I don't use anything rougher than that. So it's either the 00 or the 0000. And then I just have my Matte Avenue in a kind of a different bowl at home. It was some leftover from the last batch that I made. So I get my steel wool wet, just a little bit on the edge. I go in and I dunk it in. I get a generous amount out of the paste, and then I wet my cup as well. I like it to feel like it really smooths on quite nicely. Now this you want to be applying as minimal of pressure as possible. The more you push into this, yes, the quicker you will mat your project, but you will also scratch the heck out of it. So in order to avoid seeing all of those scratch marks, you want to go super, super, super lightly. You can go circular strokes from top to bottom. You can go straight up and down. That part makes absolutely no difference. Guys, you really, really want to be careful here of just how much pressure you're using. If it does scratch, depending on how badly, you may be able to go ahead and buff it out using a Mr. Clean magic eraser or your hand. Your hand will definitely take a lot longer, but sometimes that will help. And if it doesn't, then the only fix, guys, unfortunately, is another layer of epoxy, and then you have to start this process over again. So it's really, really, really important that you take your time and you go super, super lightly, okay? And this really didn't take a whole lot of time here. I think I spent maybe a total of 10 minutes from start to finish. And just if you feel like you need to add a little bit more, you can. If you need to re-wet your cup, you can. There's no wrong way to do this other than too much pressure. And you'll start to see it matting pretty quick. So you just want to make sure you've done it evenly is the biggest part. So top rim typically gets missed. The bottom rim is usually not as hard to do. Don't forget the bottom of your cup. And again, we don't have to worry about the decal on the cup because that is all under epoxy and covered. And again, don't forget the bottom. And you'll be able to tell how that matte finish is coming along. But I always like to kind of wash my cup part way through. And I love Dawn dish soap. I just find that it does such a bang up job of getting rid of all of the residue on there. So just with my hand, really carefully with my ring so I'm not scratching the cup, I just go ahead and lather it all up, rinse it off. Try not to scald my hands here. The water was really hot. And then if you feel that you still need another layer, then you go ahead and just give it another wash and have a look from there. Maybe it does need a little bit more matting. I think I decided to do just a little bit more with this one. And I just gave it another real quick wash here, just to get everything off. I think I dried it really well after this and then just had a really good look to see where I was at in that matte finish. And again, this is all up to you. So, you know, if you like a really, really heavy matte finish, this will take you a little bit longer. You'll definitely need to go over it a couple of times. If you like just sort of an average matte finish, you know, usually once is pretty good, maybe a second time. It's just going to depend on the look that you're after, and there's no right or wrong here. It's art, it's subjective. So just drying it off really good with a clean dish towel. And it's a little bit hard to see here with the ring light that I have from my camera stand, so I turned it off. And again, it's still kind of hard to see in this video, but I was pretty happy with it. I think I did do one more, like I said, I definitely did one more pass with it. But there are no scratches or anything. I really did take my time, guys, and just go light. And here's the finished product. So I just want to send out a really huge thanks to Maureen Jenkins as well of Creative Chaos in Victoria. She helped me immensely with this project. I had never used liquid glow powder before, so she was a huge help. So, and I really love how this cup turned out. It was glowing in the dark. You can see the messages, and they're quite subtle during the day when it's not all lit up like this. So I absolutely love this. I hope you guys did too. Please subscribe to my channel, hit that bell so you get the notifications when we upload our newest videos. Thanks for watching, guys.